Lots of beef between Xfinity Series drivers after Sonoma, and I've made some big changes to my power rankings this week. 2 new names have cracked my top 4. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Happy Monday. This past weekend, I had an epiphany. I am going to explain exactly why Shane Van Gisbergen is ready for a full-time Cup Series opportunity. We'll get to that in a moment, but first we need to start with some conflict between 2 other Xfinity Series drivers. This thread popped up on X this morning. It began with reporter Steven Stumpf posting about some interesting stats from Saturday's Xfinity race at Sonoma, specifically highlighting the fact that SVG was not passed by a single car the entire race. Believe me, we will get to SVG in a moment. But Chandler Smith chimed in, patted himself on the back, saying, "How about them 51 green flag passes though?" Chandler Smith did have to overcome a lot on Saturday, worked his way back up into the top 10 by the end. Jeremy Clements, fellow Xfinity Series driver, wasn't so impressed, however. He replied to Chandler with, "Yeah, great job there. 4 of those came when you got me dumped and ruined my race." Sarcastic clapping emoji. "Whoa, what's this all about?" Chandler asks. "You got me mistaken with someone else, bud. I didn't have a front bumper to dump someone if I wanted to." To which Jeremy Clements replies, "Well, watch the replay then." Ooh-wee. Then Chandler Smith decided to bring out the SMT footage. He replied, "You might want to check the facts before you start making accusations. I was inside of Boris and Buddy ran me into the concrete wall." And here's the clip that he shares. Yes, you can see both Chandler Smith and the 17 are very shallow entering the corner, stack up. Ooh, Jeremy Clements is that car that stalls. He gets spun around. Jeremy Clements does get the bad end of this deal. My take, looking at this, 3D SMT footage, I think Chandler Smith did make a very aggressive inside move. Boris said absolutely came down. I almost wonder if Boris said didn't know he was down there. It looked like Boris was almost trying to make his own move on the car in front of him. They all came together. Unfortunately, that stack up took out Jeremy Clements. It is hard to tell the timing. Was it the contact between Chandler and Boris that set off the contact that spun Clements? I believe that was Ed Jones behind Jeremy Clements in the 26. Or was there contact between Boris and Jones, or even Jones and Clements first, that actually sent the 51 around? My point is, did Chandler Smith make an aggressive move there late in the race? Yes, he did. Absolutely. Did Boris Said aggressively pinch him? That is also very much true. Does Jeremy Clements have a right to be upset? Absolutely. He did nothing wrong, got taken out by a couple drivers racing really hard behind him. It's been a tough year for Jeremy. He's 19th in points. This is a guy who's made the playoffs a couple times in the past 3 seasons, been one of the best independent Xfinity Series teams for the past decade, and we know he's a great road course racer. He won at Road America some number of years ago and was in line for at least a top 15 finish at Sonoma before this incident forced him outside of the top 20. Maybe I'm just saying this because I do a daily NASCAR talk show, but I like both drivers hashing things out after the fact, even if it's on social media. Jeremy Clements, a veteran, drawing attention to Chandler Smith's aggressive move, trying to establish some sort of agreed upon racing etiquette. While Chandler Smith, I like it. He's sticking up for himself. Whoa, hey, I didn't hit you. Sure, there was a stack up. Yes, we were racing aggressively, but let's make one thing clear. I did not spin you out. I like when drivers do these things in full public eye so fans can react. It's fun, it's engaging, it's good for the sport, even if it's not good for Jeremy Clements, unfortunately, in this case. Now, we will talk Cup Series in just a few moments. I cannot wait to share my latest power rankings with you. But while we're focused on the Xfinity Series, let's talk about Shane Van Gisbergen for a moment. And there is, spoiler alert, some Cup Series crossover here. Shane Van Gisbergen, the New Zealand racer, has won back-to-back Xfinity Series races, first at Portland, a road course in the Pacific Northwest, and then Sonoma, a road course in wine country. The West Coast has been kind to SVG this month. These 2 victories have vaulted Van Gisbergen into the top 10 in the regular season standings. His 2 wins combined with a stage win give him 11 playoff points. Not including playoff points that will be given out based on regular season results, Shane Van Gisbergen has the 4th most playoff points in the Xfinity Series right now, behind only Justin Allgaier, Chandler Smith, and Austin Hill. That's kind of crazy. Where am I going with this? Recent rumblings suggest Shane Van Gisbergen will go full-time NASCAR Cup Series racing next year in a 3rd Trackhouse car. SVG has made 3 Cup Series starts this season. His best finish was a 20th at COTA. He's only made 1 Cup start at a traditional intermediate oval. He finished 28th at Charlotte a few weeks back in the rain-shortened Coca-Cola 600. He's obviously a fantastic road course racer, winning at Chicago in his series debut last summer, but is Shane Van Gisbergen Cup Series ready? I'm sold. Yeah, I think he's ready. And if you go back to late last summer, I was close to being sold on SVG back then. Let's start with his road course prowess. I think Shane Van Gisbergen right now is the best pure road racer in stock car racing. I mentioned his win at Chicago last summer. He was 10th at the Indy road course. If we look at his Xfinity Series numbers this year, he's 2 for 3 in road course wins. He's won 2 of them. And he maybe probably would have won COTA until drama on the final couple restarts. Still dominated that race. And he's getting better at the ovals. Keep in mind, Shane Van Gisbergen is 35 years old and had almost 0 prior oval experience before this season. Yet, in his first full Xfinity Series season, he has finished top 20 at every non-drafting oval outside of Las Vegas, which we're going to eliminate because he blew a motor. 3rd at Atlanta early in the year. That was a drafting track. But then he was 6th at Phoenix in March, 11th at Martinsville, recently 15th at Charlotte, 15th at Darlington, the track too tough to tame. And keep in mind, Kaulig Racing, while they are one of the better teams in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, they aren't the powerhouse we thought they were a few years back when AJ Allmendinger was, the regular season champion. So all things considered, I believe Shane Van Gisbergen has exceeded expectations so far this year, especially on ovals. He's adapted quickly to ovals. I think he's adapted quickly to both Xfinity and Cup Series cars. And I think Shane Van Gisbergen is adapting to the culture. What do I mean by that? Last week, there was a press conference. SVG was there, spoke to reporters for half an hour, and he said he feels it's been difficult to adjust to the level of aggression in NASCAR, especially on restarts or late in the race. He felt that he's not always aggressive enough. Shane Van Gisbergen said, quote, "I got to get better at understanding the games, those 50-50 situations. I'm too conservative at the moment, whereas everyone else doesn't care. They just run into you, it seems." SVG might have at least partially been referring to an incident at COTA earlier this year when Austin Hill was able to bump him out of the way during one of the final restarts. SVG remembered that, and this is my point. He adapted at Sonoma this weekend. Late in the race, Austin Hill put him in one of those 50-50 spots, and this time, Shane Van Gisbergen was assertive, kept his foot in the gas, filled that space, and was able to take the lead at Austin Hill's expense. So again, SVG has adapted to the ovals, he's adapted to the cars, and now he's adapted to those games, the aggression. I think Sonoma this past weekend proved that. He's still going to add his own flair to things, like him doing burnouts next to Austin Hill's race car after the race, just rubbing salt in the wound. Goodness gracious, that'd be a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty in the NFL. If this was baseball, the benches would have cleared at such a brash show of emotion. Shane Van Gisbergen is a quick learner. He has adapted quickly to the way we do business here in the States. That's why I think he's ready to go. If they put him in a Cup Series car next season, more power to him. Look, let's be realistic. Shane Van Gisbergen in Cup next year will likely run 25th at most of the ovals. I think that's being realistic. At the super speedways, he could contend, but at the road courses, COTA, Sonoma, Watkins Glen, likely Chicago once again, maybe Montreal or Mexico City, or shoot, even both. At the road courses, he's going to run up front. He'll be in contention for the win, and with NASCAR's current playoff format, one win locks you into the playoffs. All that bonus money, all that incentive to get to victory lane. He'll be like AJ Allmendinger was for many years, and AJ Allmendinger, despite not usually contending at most of the ovals, managed to win a road course 2 of the last 3 years. That's a pretty good batting average, a batting average that I think Trackhouse would be willing to bet on with SVG. What do you think? A team of Ross Chastain, likely Daniel Suarez, and Shane Van Gisbergen, is that a great NASCAR Cup Series team? Is that a formidable roster? I'd consider doing it. Trial by fire. Again, SVG has been able to adapt to so many things so quickly. He's proven he's a fast learner. Let's see what he's got. I will be very curious to see Shane Van Gisbergen in Cup next year full-time, if in fact Trackhouse makes the call. Am I way off base? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I plan later this week to talk to one of his teammates this year, get their perspective on this. In the meantime, though, let's talk power rankings. A lot of changes this week. Get ready. Every week, I rank the top 10 fastest overall drivers and cars in the NASCAR Cup Series. Let's rock and roll. Some quick honorable mentions here, and some of these might be unpopular takes. Ross Chastain, great top 5, but it was only his second top 5 of the year. Honorable mention Ryan Blaney, credit to him. He managed to dust himself off after that disappointing Gateway finish and get a top 10. And my last honorable mention dropping out of my top 10 this week is Ty Gibbs. We saw some bad Ty Gibbs tendencies surface this weekend. Threw a little temper tantrum when things went awry in the Xfinity race, took out his teammate, or let's just say damaged his teammate. Then he made a big mistake early in the Cup race and DNF'd. Rough weekend for Ty Gibbs. I still believe in their speed, however. Let's go to number 10. Alex Bowman, hanging on to a top 10 spot by a hair. 15th place at Sonoma isn't great, but it's right around Alex Bowman's career road course average. He did qualify really well. He ran top 5 for a good portion of this race, collected some pretty good stage points. The problem was once he got back in traffic, he had a hard time passing cars efficiently. 15th, not bad. Remember, he did have 5 straight top 10 finishes before Gateway. I do need to see some of these 8th to 12th place runs turn into top 5 runs more consistently, or else I'll have to drop Bowman out of the top 10 before too long. I got Chris Buescher at number 9. He finished 3rd on Sunday, overcame a poor qualifying effort, led some laps. Performance under pressure. Chris Buescher, with his back up against the wall, won a stage. He went from being only plus 10 over the playoff cut line to plus 32, and now he's got another driver in between him and the cut line, a little buffer zone. Very productive weekend for Chris Buescher. That's why he's back in my top 10. That's 5 straight weeks with an RFK Ford finishing inside the top 5. At number 8, give me Christopher Bell. He was the only JGR driver on Sunday to survive with a decent finish. His average finish statistic is still pretty ugly, but it's improving the last few weeks. He's finished 1st, 7th, and 9th 3 straight races. He has 2 wins on the year, of course, the second most stage wins of anyone. I'm very interested to see what Christopher Bell can do at Iowa this weekend. I know they've repaved much of the racetrack, but in his last 4 Xfinity starts here, Christopher Bell has finishes of 2nd, 1st, 1st, 2nd. So he's pretty good. Christopher Bell at 8. And holding on to 7th for a second consecutive week is Brad Keselowski. 13th at Sonoma is pretty good when you consider his next-gen road course average finish is like 20th. And remember, before this race, Brad Keselowski had a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. The 6 team is firing on all cylinders. I like the trajectory RFK continues to be on. Brad Keselowski at 7. Now, my top 6 are where things have changed quite a bit. Brace yourself. At number 6, Martin Truex Jr. What's this guy gotta do, man? He got spun, got door slammed, overcame all that adversity to lead this race briefly, battle for the win. At worst, Truex was gonna finish 2nd, and then he ran out of gas. Fell just feet short of the start-finish line, scored 27th when it was all said and done. A difficult result to stomach at one of Truex's best tracks. I do believe that most weeks Martin Truex Jr. has top 5 speed, but I'm putting him in 6th because just the vibes are off. We're still waiting for him to break through. He led a ton of laps at Bristol, at Phoenix, at Richmond. Lost to his teammates in all 3 of those races. Flat tire last weekend at Gateway may have cost him a top 5. Now running out of gas? And now he's starting to face questions about his future. Is he going to retire? Joe Gibbs demanding an answer sooner rather than later. A lot of tension behind the scenes, so despite the consistent speed, the big ol' 0 in the win column has me putting Truex down in the 6th spot. Top 5. This might be controversial. I have William Byron in the 5 spot. 3 wins on the season cannot be overlooked, but he's finished 15th and 30th the past 2 races. I know Sonoma, involved in that one crash, broke a toe link, not all his fault. But if we look at some of the underlying statistics, William Byron only has 1 stage win. He's led less than half as many laps as Hamlin and Larson. He's led half as many laps as Martin Truex Jr. Byron is very good, but I'm no longer convinced he's a championship 4 lock. That's how a lot of us were describing him just a couple months ago. He's still obviously very much in the mix, but if you ask me, he's not in the same league as Denny Hamlin or Kyle Larson consistently. I don't think that's even debatable. William Byron at 5. Moving up to number 4, I have Tyler Reddick. Recent finishes of 4th, and 8th. And keep in mind, he was in contention for the win late at Darlington when he got in a little over his skis. He's run really well at a variety of different racetracks, was great early on at Sonoma, won the opening stage. If he doesn't lock up the front tires racing Larson at the end of stage 2, maybe Reddick could have hung with the 5 car and made things interesting there towards the end, but still a top 10 effort. He's up to 4th in the regular season standings, and Tyler Reddick is now the first Cup Series driver this year to get to 10 top 10 finishes on the season. Tyler Reddick at 4. At number 3, Chase Elliott. This might be the best ranking I've given Elliott. I think I had him at 3 or 4 after his Texas win. But yeah, Chase Elliott at 3. Another top 5 finish. Great run at Sonoma. He continues to improve on his series best 9.5 average finish. He's moved into 2nd in the regular season standings. I love all the consistency from Elliott. He's just missing some of that dominant speed. Just said, he's got the best average finish, 2nd best in points, but he's only led the 10th most laps. He's only got 1 stage win this year. There are 8 drivers with more stage wins than him. I love the consistency, but I need to see him lead more laps. Maybe win another race, and then he has a shot at breaking into my top 2. As for my top 2, they have swapped back this week. At number 2, I've got Denny Hamlin. I hate to punish him for an issue that was likely completely beyond the driver's control, blowing a motor 2 laps in. Denny has been really good lately. Before this issue, he had 5 straight top 5 finishes. But I'm still going to drop him because while the engine issue is not his fault, it was Toyota's fault. And this is now 2 major engine malfunctions for Toyota race cars in 2 weeks. We've seen these kinds of technical glitches plague this team in the past, like it ruined Kyle Busch's 2022 playoff run. I know it's a long way between now and the start of the playoffs, plenty of time to sort through these issues, but this is something to watch at least over the next few weeks. Denny Hamlin in the 2 spot, which means at number 1, back on top, is Kyle Larson. 3rd win of the season, retakes the regular season points lead. I mentioned this last night in my video, but what really jumped out at me was how well Larson was able to gap Elliott, Chastain, Reddick, other good drivers, good cars on the same strategy. The shadow that was cast by his failed double attempt, the waiver debate, that shadow has moved on. This team has fully found their momentum once again. Kyle Larson in the number 1 spot. There you go. There's a look at my top 10 after Sonoma. Just 10 races to go until the playoffs begin. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my placements this time around. That has been one of my favorite segments of the year. Glad to see so many of you enjoying it as well, chiming in week after week. I greatly appreciate it. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for watching, folks. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. It's free, and you get the latest NASCAR content and commentary in your inbox day after day. And a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. Have a wonderful rest of your day, folks. I will see you again tomorrow. Thanks for watching.